Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast.
There are a lot of reasons why, just logically and practically, our food and the way we consume and the way that we nourish ourselves should change, like every year, every few months. Like it shouldn't be the same. And we're in a world where we could eat the same thing every single day, and have it prepared in the exact same way and never deviate, because we can pretty much access food any time of year, anything that we want. So it kind of raises this, like, people find themselves in this challenging position where they're like, oh my God, I was told by this app that this is how I'm supposed to eat. Or I had a coach that laid out this meal plan for me, and it was a 8-week meal plan, and it worked great. So I'm going to do it for the next 8 weeks and the next 8 weeks. And then a year goes by and they're on the same 8-week meal plan. And it's the same foods, it's the same amount of calories, it's the same amount of everything. They've never deviated from it. I fell victim to this when I had my first gains, or my first, not even gains, like when I got ripped for the first time. I think I've shared this diet specifically on here, but it was very absurd. It was very unusual. Mm-hmm. There were some very odd things. And it was like, in hindsight, looking at it, it was very much a contrived, diet to try and hit certain macronutrient amounts with palatable things. It had like yogurt, cottage cheese, protein, chia seed, flaxseed mixtures. So this like stuff that looked really odd, but it tasted amazing because it was like all these, flavored protein powders. It had like me eating cottage cheese and Fruit Loops at one meal with protein powder. It had like a American craft cheese fat-free singles, like those little ones that are like basically made out of like, I don't know if it's real food.
Like, I'm not sure. What's the difference between the plastic wrapper and the cheese inside?
Yeah, it's about the same.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot to take the plastic off. I didn't even notice it was there. Yeah. I was like eating that on like spelt, like this like high quality spelt bread. I'm like, this is so odd. Like thinking back, I'm like, I bought the most expensive bread in the store, and then I bought these craft singles,
the cheapest cheese.
Yeah, and these were the soggy salad days. Yep. And 6 egg whites, 1 egg yolk with just like a big old thing of wet tomatoes on it. Yeah, just a very contrived. But I was like, and it got me results, and then I was like, okay, well, this is how I got to eat forever. And I kept eating like that, like well beyond a 6-pack, because I was like, oh my gosh, if I eat anything else, I'm gonna lose all my aesthetics.
Yeah, well, there are a couple things that really strike me about what Davey's message said, and I'm on this big kick around reducing uncertainty and how to do that in our messaging, and how uncertainty just plays a huge role in the fear that humans have in day-to-day life in making these types of decisions. Because I feel like in Davey's story, he has followed a very common path of, I want to improve my nutrition, and so I'm going to follow the exact prescription, and then it's going to get me this great result. And I've learned something like, I'm undernourishing. And so now I'm certain that if I eat this template type of plan, it's going to get me this type of result. Now that I maybe want to tweak a few things, I have the fear of uncertainty of whether the new thing I try is going to work or not, because it's all about what is the prescribed plan that's going to get me the results I want, versus I am now going to understand how the whole thing works, and thus reduce my uncertainty that way, because I'm going to feel confident in knowing generally how nutrition levers can push and pull and create different types of outcomes.
That's deep. Yeah. Yeah, it is. What's the lever you're going to pull to try and, minimize your uncertainty? And I think that there are times where following a strict meal plan and eating the same thing every single day helps a lot. It's like you got a lot of uncertainty in your life, and this is one thing that you can just sort of, I can control this, I can limit the variables, and that creates some certainty that I'm going to have some outcome. And that's that's something I fall back on from time to time too. And then there comes a time where now he's having some like uncertainty around his body and how he's feeling and the outcomes. And so like it means questioning what the systems that he has in place, how those are supporting or not supporting what he's actually feeling on a day-to-day basis. So now I would argue that like if he's having these recurring feelings of like, I don't feel like I'm getting the progress that I want, my body is feeling puffy some days, like I'm not totally psyched on how I'm looking and feeling right now, then it absolutely is time to start to question the plan that is like this concrete thing that is there that has gotten you so far. It's like, yeah, it got you really far. And, you know, it's like if you're learning to do a muscle up, like you did the muscle up row for like a year and it got you to your first strict muscle up. It's like, okay, well now it's time to start training the strict muscle up. Like, you're going to keep doing the muscle up row for another year? Like that's not necessarily going to be the thing that you need right now to, just because it got you to where you're at doesn't mean it's not time to like potentially evolve and move past that, because you're having signs that's not totally working for you right now. You have an intuitive gut sense that like, hey, I'm not really loving every aspect of this. It's time to shake it up.
Yeah. So I think, well, what could help alleviate some fear of trying something different, something new that gets you into the next phase? And I think, well, what's the worst case scenario for Davey? It's like, okay, I'm gonna try something else. I'm gonna go off the script. And what is it? I'm going to eat delicious food, and all of a sudden I'm not going to be able to control myself, and I'm going to just go off the rails and gain a ton of weight and just go in the wrong direction? Or is it that I'm not going to know what I should eat? So, you know, how would you guide someone like that in a situation where they could start to deviate, but do so with a little bit more confidence in the results that they might see?